And then I'll maximize this, and then I'll in Canvas, assuming I get my mouse back. Where is my mouse? Why don't I have a mouse? I know, but it's not moving. Okay, there it is up there. Now if I click into the middle, now I've got it. Okay. So at the top, we have these, the first one is this Mongo collections JSON. And I want to kind of talk through what that would look like and maybe give a little bit of explanation. So it's basically, there's no entity diagrams for this because there's no relational structure. And that's what entity diagrams are for. So what we're going to do is what I kind of want you to do is do some sample JSON. Now, eventually we'll add some more and we'll make them into data for the database. And again, it'll be kind of like the other ones. I'm just going to ask for 5 or 6 records, in each one, not a lot. But I wanted to show you kind of how to do that. Now, one of the things with this JSON is that it is wide open in terms of what you do. I'm going to show you kind of a pattern that you can use, but there are lots of patterns. It's, as I said, it's pretty wide open in terms of what you can do with the structure, because the structure is almost entirely up to you. So I'm going to open up Notepad, and eventually we'll add this to Mongo just to show you. But you don't, for this assignment, what I really want is just something like Notepad with your sampled collections and data. Does that make sense? Kind of like what we're going to do right now. So we ready?
Should we be logged into something?
We should probably be in the virtual machine. It doesn't really matter unless you want to test it. For the Notepad, it could be outside. I'm going to run a couple of these in just to show you how they work. That's not an actual part of the first assignment. The first assignment is really just to create this Notepad with what you think the relations would be. And you can work with each other. It's supposed to be a group assignment, but again, it's graded individually. So let me look. I think this is way small. It's the one outside of here where I set the font real big. So I'm going to do edit or format font. You guys don't have to do this. I'm just going to make it big. Okay, so just for the sample one, what I'm going to do is sort of a database where we do like tech products and reviews. So I'm just going to do, if we name the database, I could do product reviews or something. Whatever you want to name it. This is, again, just for a sample. This isn't the assignment. Now, a couple of things when you're doing this. This isn't something that you would, this isn't a script, right, where you would just run that. You would want to say use product reviews if you were to actually run a script. And that would create the database product reviews. So then what you want to do is decide what your collections are. And again, my point here isn't to write a script where you can just paste the whole thing, but a collection is like a table. So this is just a note. Collections are like tables. Basically, each collection, it's a collection of JSON objects. Does that make sense? This is just a note. So you wouldn't put this directly into the thing. So one of the things, if we're going to do products and reviews, what kinds of collections do you want? Couple of things. You can think about these the way you would think about database tables, but you don't have to. So I'm going to do kind of a mix of these. So if you were doing tables, what you probably have one for products, right? So when you turn this in, you can do something like just name the collection. Okay, so again, when you actually put this in, I'll show you how you would put these in, but again, that's not part of the first assignment. So I'm going to say that there's a collection of products. Then this is the part. So one of the things that I want you to do when you do the show tracker is just say what collections you would have, right? So this is just a note. This isn't how you would enter it. So I'm going to, we're going to have a collection of products. And then you would do what you think it would look like, one of the records would look like. And remember, JSON starts curly braces, right? And the names of the curly brace. And then it's going to be name value pairs. So we would give it a name, like product name. And then you would do a colon. And you can put quotes on either side of this if you want. The name doesn't have to be quoted. The other one does. So let's just say it doesn't matter, single or double, as long as you're consistent on both sides, right? And you don't have to capitalize. It is case sensitive, so it's really good to be consistent. So you could do all lowercase if you prefer. You could do camel case, whatever you do, as long as you're consistent. Does that make sense?
Does that mean it doesn't, like, we can do lowercase, uppercase?
You can do lowercase, uppercase, but if you're searching for something, it has to match exactly. It's case sensitive. So now, a couple of things. I suggest if you're doing this, you just give it a what is the current iPad? Well, I know Apple is the company, but there's all sorts of versions of iPads. Well, there's also, I don't know what they're called. Well, we could say iPad mini. So there are like there are versions of them, right? There are all sorts of different versions of iPads actually. There is an iPad mini, but there are even versions of those. All right, so basically name value. If you really want to be lazy, you could just do name colon and 50 quotes over here, right? Because you're basically just showing me what you think the structure is. So I'm going to do another. Okay. iPad Pro is what I was trying to think of. Yeah. It's okay, though. So let's do, what else would you want to know about the product?
Cost.
Or price? Is that what you're thinking? Yeah. So let's do price. And when it's a number, you don't have to quote it. I have no idea what an iPad mini is. The iPad Pro is about $800.
It's from $649.
I'll just say $399, even though that's probably wrong.
That's correct. $399.
Well, and then you might company or something.
Yeah.
Which
Storage.
well, you could do, yeah. So we'll say Apple, and then we could do storage.
The dollar sign.
What?
The dollar sign.
No, you don't want a dollar sign.
No, you don't.
If you want to do any kind of math with it, you don't want a dollar sign. Also, the $sign in JSON is used for certain kinds of very specialized functions and variables. So you don't want to use a $sign. Notice there's a comma after each of these, right? So storage, I don't know what the typical one is. Let's say 32 gigabytes. I know they come 32, 64, 128. I don't know what the minis, but the others. And I'm not sure what the RAM is on an iPad.
Storage is 65 gigabytes. It's $1,000 for the 512 gigabytes,
Yeah.
and 256 gigabytes is 800.
Yeah, which is what I have, I think.
64 gigabyte is the smallest for the.
All right. For the Pro, but for the Mini, it doesn't matter. The point of this isn't to be super accurate.
It's like $399 for 128 gigabytes is the smallest.
128. Again, it doesn't matter a whole lot. Is there anything else we would want to know about that? But I just want to, this is sort of the process where you think about what kinds of things you'd want to. It's similar to the fields, right? Thinking about the fields. Data types you don't have to worry about too much. Although if it's numeric, you don't have to quote it. There is a date time structure you can use. Most things are just treated as characters, as strings.
No Wi-Fi.
I mean, you could. I know some of them come with a plan and some of them don't. Let's just go with this for right now, though. So this is a product. If you want to add a second product here, you could do a comma. If you put square brackets around this, you can actually insert multiple ones at the same time. I will show that in a minute.
So this is just an array.
Yeah, it's just an array of objects.
Is an array JSON? Is that like a different thing?
Well, it's JavaScript.
I guess I don't fully understand that because I know a little JavaScript, right? And I've seen JSON, but I don't totally get how they're different.
They're not really different. This is just JavaScript objects.
Oh.
JavaScript object notation is what JSON stands for. So this is just a subset of JavaScript.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's essentially the thing that the JSON is used for is it's almost exclusively used for storing or transporting data, and it's always breaks into these pairs. But it can get more complicated. I'm going to show that in a minute. So let's do. If we're doing reviews, do we want to keep a thing of reviewers as well? You guys have no ideas today? Now, I'm doing these, I'm still kind of working like these are tables, and they don't have to be. And when I do the review, I'll show you how you can combine all of these into one. So one of the things I didn't put here is an ID. And if you don't use IDs in Mongo, at least, are always like this, not like that. And you can assign your own ID. If you do underscore ID, you can assign your own ID. If you don't do it, it'll automatically assign an ID to every record. And they're going to be like 20 characters long, the IDs. Right? So if you wanted something a little simpler, you could assign your own ID. But if you do that, you're totally responsible for keeping track of your own IDs. And they do have to be unique. Does that make sense? So if I did this, that would mean it has an ID of 1. If I don't add the ID field, it'll be an ID of, I don't know, XYZ.
It just needs a unique ID inside of that collection. Right?
Yes, within that collection. Yeah, it doesn't have to be unique across all collections, just that collection. So for a reviewer, I'm just going to do reviewer name. And one would probably want to spell it a little bit better. I have no idea. So let's see. That's what he does in his spare time between murders. All right, so probably like an email. And I'm just going to do Is there anything else you'd want to know? Maybe date added or something?
On the address.
I don't know that I would want another address. Usually you need some contact. I don't know if you need their address. You could, I mean, it depends on what you're doing, right? For some things you would want people's addresses and stuff. What else do you think? Anything else? I suppose we could just let that be. Okay, so I'm going to do a collection called reviews, and this one I'm going to do some different things in. And then I'll kind of show how this might work in Mongo. So when you're doing, the assignment, what you're thinking about are venues, right? The places where the music is, the artist, the music itself, the bands. That's the artist. You might also think about the fans who can register and then say what artists they want to follow. So, it wouldn't be this is a collection of products and things. So I'm going to do reviews. So those are reviewers. Let's do reviews. And this one I'm going to make a little bit more complex. Let me raise this up. So what would you want to know for a review? So you would want to know probably the product that you're reviewing, right? Let's do the review first. So let's say we would want to know the review title. I don't know, but would iPad minis. I have no idea. My brain is not really here today. So we probably would want the review date, and I might have to look up. There's a function to do the date properly. So I'm just going to say, I'm just going to put the date in like this. But there is a built-in function which converts characters to a date. So right now, I'm just doing that. I'm going to do, so I'm going to do like a rating. And I'm going to just say it's like in numbers between, you rated 0 to 5 or 1 to 5, something like that. So I'm going to do like review text, and this will be not an exciting review. Easier to hold in a full size. So we've got the review stuff here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do product next, I think. And I'm going to like do product. Oops. This is the product that they're reviewing. And I'm going to do a curly brace here. And we'll do, so we've got product. We could do the product ID. We've got ID up there, right? But at this one, I'm just going to do product ID. And I'll do the 1. Probably want to quote this, so that it doesn't have to be. And then I'm going to do a comma. There also should be a comma here. And if you want, you can break this out. I might break this out just for visibility. You don't have to. Line breaks are entirely up to you. Product ID, product name, product price. And I'm pretty much putting the product, repeating the product information. Product name. And maybe you don't necessarily have to repeat everything, so I might just do product price as well. And that was $399. So, and then I'm going to close that. And do a comma. I'm hoping this will go in all right when I do it. And then I'm going to do reviewer. And again, I'll do a colon. And what I'll do is add just the reviewer name. You see what I'm doing? I'm embedding other objects, the objects that we had up above. I'm just showing you this is an alternative way, and it's a very different way of thinking about it than normal relational tables. So we've got Norman Bates. And I will just do their email. That's all we have up there anyway.
Oh, dude, the light. That felt amazing.
What is that? Okay, so I'm going to let this be the whole object. If I can get the curly brace there. So it is possible. So my instinct is to build like a product table and to build a customer, reviewer table. You could do it all together. And something that I've seen in non-relational databases, NoSQL databases, is sometimes they do it all. They do the product table, that way you can search just the products easily. They do the reviewers, that way you can search just for the reviewers, but they repeat all the information again in the reviewer one, so that if you want, you don't have to go cross tables to go find something. Does that make sense? You could also, as I said, just ignore those first two collections and just do this, just build your product and your thing. NoSQL seems to not worry at all about repetition, but it does have some of the same problems. If you're inconsistent, you're not going to get everything back properly. It isn't that hard. This looks a little bit hard. It isn't that hard to query an object inside of an object. You just collect, you do find product dot, and then what field you're looking for. Does that make sense? Yeah.
What would be the purpose of using the first example compared to the second example? And would you use one for like a more specific database? Or?
Well, so you might. One of the things about a NoSQL database is that they generally don't seem to care about repetition, and they generally don't care about just repeating things over and over. I mean, repetition generally. So one of the advantages, I have seen them where they do like pretty much like this. So you have a list of all the products that have been reviewed, and that's fine. You can do that. And because the product is there, you could search for a product in this thing, and then you could search for all the reviews of product with an product ID of 1, right? If you were looking over here. And this, the only advantage of this is that it gives you a really quick way to bring up all the products, right? Which you can do down here too. It's just that it might be faster to have a list of the products themselves. Same with the reviewers, and it might be easier when you're assigning permissions and stuff to have a separate reviewer thing. But you can also just get by with just doing this last bit. So whenever anybody enters a review, they enter the product information and others, and it all comes through at once. So you could have a very valid NoSQL database that's just one collection that has multiple objects in it. Other things you could do, so you talked about other prices, multiple prices. Let's go up here to do it. I think we may have to shut the door here. You can add you can do arrays in here. Like that, where you can do all the prices for a mini, for the different sizes. I just made up the prices. But you could do, you can have arrays in here, which are totally forbidden in relational databases. You can have, one of the reasons why developers like NoSQL databases is that they're so flexible. You can do whatever you want to some extent. Now, part of the drawbacks of these is that they're so flexible that you can do anything you want. If you want to have consistent results, if you want to have useful results, you need to develop some kind of structure. A collection should be consistent to some degree in what it has in it. Does that make sense? It doesn't have to be the same. For instance, I could do a second review here. And what I'll do is I'll just copy this and I'll paste down here, but I'll change it. What kind of different product might we want? And let's just say it's a 28.
So it looks like
Oh, what?
Maybe a MacBook or something.
Oh, we could do, yeah, Mac Pro. So let's do Mac Pro. So that's the title, and that'll be our product too. And the price of that is more like $1,200, isn't it? Or is it even more?
More, that's good. It's on sale, right?
Yeah, it's on sale. And reviewer, we could say is I don't know. I have no idea who that would be, but so let's add a field here. So we got product price, product name. We could have, product company. That was up in the product, but we didn't have it. So it's just a company. You might also do things like I don't know, sold at Apple Store. The point being that you can have records differ from each other. Again, it's better if the structure is similar, but they don't have to be the same. In a relational database, the structure is always the same, for every record. But in a relational one, it doesn't have to be the same. So for instance, if you had a one that did, this one did a rating of 4, maybe they left the rating out altogether. That would be perfectly fine.
When we're doing this, do we do it straight in Mongo, or is there any kind of design stage like there was where we busy?
There's no real design stage. There's no. I mean, you could do that, but people generally don't do it.
Like if you were in a company and they wanted you to make a Mongo, would you just start clunking away, or would you like design it first?
Well, I think before I put it into Mongo, I would have some discussion as to what you want the records to look like. That's kind of what I'm expecting. It's just like a notepad at this point. So I think there would be a discussion, and you would say, all right, so what is it that we need to record? It may be simpler than that, actually, because a lot of times with Mongo, you're just taking stuff off the web. So you might just have a pre-designed data structure, in their API. Most media feeds have a JSON API that you can pull the JSON off with all the data, and then you can do whatever you want with that data.
What do you mean with JSON API?
So, like Twitter has, if you sign up, you have to register, but you can take the Twitter feeds off. So there's the feed itself, right? But there's also all the user information is there, all the retweets are there, information about whoever retweeted it, all the like information is there. I mean, it can go on for pages. What language it was originally tweeted in, what the date of it, how many people viewed it. All of that information is in there. So an API is like a programming interface. And basically with JSON, what that means is what fields are there and what kinds of values are stored in those fields. Right, so and most media feeds have, you can get all the data from a feed in a JSON format. So with that format, most relational databases have ways of doing what they call shredding, which is where you take the JSON and turn it into columns and rows and tables. Or if it's like a Mongo database or most of the NoSQL databases, you can just feed it, you can just dump it directly into the collection. Does that make sense? It's actually really easy. like to get a Twitter feed and get thousands and thousands of records in a few seconds, you have to get the license, and then you can find online dozens of little Python scripts or something that will scrape whatever is there. They don't read the database, and they generally don't give you the ability to read the history of it. But you can pull it off the live feed. Does that make sense?
They're limiting the number too.
They do limit the
Now I
number,
think it's 500 at the time.
but that's not bad. I mean, do it 500 at a time, wait a little while, and then do another 500.
That's nice.
I think if you have a commercial license, if you pay them for it, then you can have unlimited feeds. So Facebook has similar things. Again, with Facebook, you have to do some licensing to get permission to read this stuff off. But if you're a company, they'll sell you the permission to steal the data off of there, so you can advertise. You can check to see who's interested in what. You know, the reason they love you to like things is that they can sell those likes to people that want to advertise things to you that resemble what you like. Twitter, the trouble is, because its format, they do have likes and stuff, but there's not a lot of commercial product on there. So it's really good for political research and other things. It's not necessarily so good for product research. But anyway, does that answer your question? It's a long. So I mean, that might determine the structure of your collection right off the bat. It's just you're pulling it from some media source that already has a structure. But if you're creating like your own web page and you're creating your own structure, these would be things like do you have fields on your forms? Right? The form fields would be written into JSON. There's lots of ways to write these. JSON is a really common one. And again, if you write it into JSON, that makes it really easy to transport across the web because it's just text. And it's really easy. So they use it even for relational databases, and relational databases can take the JSON and, as I said, shred it, which means can pull the values from here and put them into the appropriate fields, the appropriate columns. Or you can make a NoSQL database and just dump your form directly into your Mongo or whatever NoSQL database you're doing. Developers love this NoSQL stuff because you don't have to spend hours or months creating a relational structure. The bad thing about it, as I've said before, is that you don't get a necessarily, it's really good for some things. It's not necessarily good for point of sale. It's not really good for any kind of thing that requires accurate accounting. It is really good for just gathering stuff for like data analysis, where you're going to apply stats to it. All right, are there other, so what I'm looking for the first assignment is just something like this, right? And there's no right or wrong answer. The gist of it is, do you have enough fields to capture what you want, and how you organize them is sort of up to you. You can break it up like tables, relational tables, but you can also do this. You had a quick question?
Yeah, it's not this assignment, but this assignment past the assignment. I didn't do my, because my computer broke down. I didn't do the test, sample data and test.
Oh.
Can that be done in the Visual Studio? Maybe.
So you don't have MySQL on there anymore? Yeah, it's pretty fast. All right, we'll look at it in a moment. Let me see if we can put this into Mongo. This isn't part of this assignment, but after we look at these, so one of the things I'll give you today, the rest of today, pretty much to look at these and then see what you come up with, and then we'll put some into to Mongo just to tell, and then we'll do some queries. And again, the whole point of this is just that NoSQL databases are making inroads, and when you go to work in the database world, you're probably going to work with relational and non-relational databases these days. So it gives you a feel. At least you can say you've touched one, right? You've looked at it a little bit. So I am going to open Mongo. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do Compass. I'm going to do, first I'm going to start MongoD. I notice that Compass does start MongoD, so you don't have to do that with that. And then I'm going to do the, just the, my brain is gone, the command line version of this. Is this, do you need this bigger? I made the font bigger, but it's still pretty small. Okay. So one of the things, if this works, so I'm going to say use product reviews. And so it says I've switched to product reviews. And again, what I've said before, this creates the database, right? Just saying use it creates the database, which can be a pain in the butt because if you mistype something, there's a database that already exists and you want to use it and you type it wrong, you suddenly have a new database. So if you type use, you thought you had data there, but you can't find the data, it may be that you mistyped the database. And it is case sensitive, so if I type this with a capital R, it's a different database. And then you can do the same thing with the collections. Lots of errors from just doing used product reviews. Yeah. Oh, you know, use has to lower case. Yeah. So this is. Well, so I wasn't doing it.
What's up? First you type in MongoDB in the terminal and what? Type in type in MongoDB.
Where do we find it?
I think it may have been that. This wasn't running. You have to run it. You have to refresh it. It is. It's declining. Yeah. Are you in the? So, couple of things. Did you make
The Mongo collections are going to be like Python Club.
It's Mongoose. And then down to there going to be a show tracker.
So just type use product reviews. Anybody else? Excuse me. So this is the command line option. There's also the GUI. The GUI is a little bit weird though to me. And also command line is actually the common interface for this. For what it's worth, it's also the common interface for the other two databases. For a lot of people, for administrators anyway, maybe not for all the query. So when I do use product reviews, are you guys with me so far? That basically just creates a database. And again, this isn't part of the first assignment. This is just to show you how those things work a little bit. So then I'm going to say DB. So DB is now just stands for whatever the current context is. Right now that's product, right? So DB is the current context. I'm going to do dot, and I'm going to give it a name for a collection. So the first collection we had was just products, right? So I'm going to do product or products. And if you want it, you can just leave it as products, or you could do products dot, products collection or something. I'm going to do find. So find gives it a function where it's going to search the products collection for information. It doesn't exist. But when I press enter, it gives me an empty thing, but it has actually created the products collection. Same thing. And again, it's a pain in the butt if you mistype things because you suddenly have a new collection. There are ways to remove them. There are ways to clean it, but this is. So if I wanted to go to my notepad, and if I want to do an insert, so let's go way up to our products. And assuming I typed everything correctly, if I highlight from here to here, I can, I'm going to copy that. I'm just going to do Control C. And down here, I'm going to do DB products dot insert. I'm going to start a parentheses, and then I'm going to right click, which is a little weird, but that's for whatever reason in this environment, right click works. Now, if you're on a Mac, that may not work. You might have to do some kind of paste. There is up in the little corner thing where it says Mongo, you can get a menu, and paste is an option. So a couple of things. Again, this is the problem with command line. So you have a parentheses here. It's really crucial you end the parentheses here. Everything has to be perfect here. If anything's wrong, we'll get an error, right? And insert is lowercase. If you do an uppercase insert, it won't work. Everything's case sensitive. You don't need semicolons. In fact, I think it might cause an error. In real JSON, you would have a semicolon at the end of it. So this tells me that it worked. It says the right result is inserted. The N here is for whatever number is inserted. The number inserted is 1. We've inserted 1 record. If it doesn't do that, it'll give you an error. All right, and the error should tell you somewhat what went wrong. Did you get an error? No. So you're missing a. I think it's because you have a blank space. So if you have to re-enter it, if you use the up arrow, let's see if I can bring up there. I'm not necessarily going to do this, but if you use the up arrow, it actually repeats it, brings up what you last typed. And you can go in and you can, I don't know how to not insert it. I think it'll give me an error if I try to insert it because my ID is 1 again.
This puts in the data, but when, never mind.
What were you?
Never mind.
Okay.
Just thinking.
Yeah.
So when you do the up arrow then, are you allowed to make changes?
Yes, you can. So what you need to do is,
So like here, there needs to be a comma, so you can add it.
yeah, so you can't mouse to it, but you can use the arrow keys to do it. So yeah, you can make changes here. You can use your arrow keys. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted to do. And you can go in and you can, yeah, make a change.
And then if you hit enter again, it should work.
Yeah, it should. Did it work? Or a different error? Is it the same error or a different error?
I mean, I wouldn't know what kind of error it is.
Duplication key. Did it not go the first time? Because it says you've already got a key in there that
You know,
Yeah,
syntax there.
ran it.
So it went in the first one, even though it gave an error, maybe.
I don't know. I'm not sure how it should go.
Okay.
Because of the key. Oh, yeah, so you're not, so now you're done, yeah. Until you get out of it.
I know what was last part.
So you're already inside the answer, so here's where you're gonna put like. So like this stuff here. Yeah, you can type.
There's no comment.
Trying to erase that. Not erase this statement right here, because you already have it out loud. So now try it and basically.
Yeah, but there should be a semicolon.
That's if
But
you
it's
already.
keeping you,
And you want to like, you know, so that way you don't have to go back.
Well,
and
it's
type
just
everything,
showing,
you just go back and change it. That's what, so what I think you're going to do is just like, that's what I have. And then line by line. you just press
And then
enter,
line
and it's not going to
show you,
execute
so I
it.
think what we have to do
And then that would enter. And then at the end, you just close it out with the curly brackets and a comma.
So we had,
All the way.
are we, lots of syntax errors, so couple of things that'll drive you nuts. And then I'll show you how you can enter it into the other thing too. But commas will drive you nuts, right? All the commas have to be in the right places. It doesn't like spaces. So if you make it have a gap in your lines, it doesn't like that. If you're going to enter more than one, so this one, I'm going to get an error right here because it has a duplicate key. right? Duplicate key error. Because I manually put in my key, it won't allow 2 ID ones. Right? If I hadn't manually put it in, it would have happily copied the same record over and over again because it would have a different key each time. So I'm going to show you one other thing. We had with our reviews, so I'm going to down zoom for a minute and then I'll zoom up again. So for our reviewers, we had 2 different reviews. If you're going to try to insert both of those together, you have to insert them as an array. So you have to do a square bracket in front of it and a square bracket at the end. And also, one of the disadvantages if you have to actually enter data like this, of this more complicated one, is there's a whole lot more places for typos. I'm going to copy all of this though and see if I can get the 2 of them in together. Before I paste though, I'm going to do DB collection, or DB, this one is reviews. So I'm going to do reviews dot insert. And I'm going to paste, let me zoom up again. All right, so notice there's a square bracket at the beginning because we have 2 records there. If you're going to enter more than 1 record at a time, you have to enter them as an array. So the square brackets signify an array. And then you come down here as with a square bracket. Each object closes with its curly brace, and each of the internal objects should have a curly brace. I wonder why that's way over there, but that's all right. That shouldn't matter. I'm going to try. Oh, so and I also need to, I have a comma there, which is not what I want. I want to close this all with a parentheses because it's all contained in a parentheses. So it inserted 2. So that actually worked. I'm better at typing these than I used to be. I doubt most of yours inserted 2. Right, most of you have errors because you type, yeah. Because it's almost always going to be commas and stuff. When you look at the errors, one of the reasons I would suggest when you do your data too to do it in Notepad, because you can go back and correct it in Notepad a lot easier than you can correct it in the thing, and then just repaste it. So I'm going to just real quickly, again, this is more show and tell. We'll go over this a little bit more. I'm going to show a couple of how we could search for these. So first I'll just do a direct find. So I'm going to do, this was reviews. So db.reviews. .find. And if you remember, if you want it to look pretty, you can actually do pretty. And it'll put your objects in a nice, fairly formatted way. Now notice I let it do the ID. So the IDs are long there. You can't use these, they do require unique keys, but you can't use the keys for relating collections. I mean, you could put this key in another collection, and then you could search for the key. But there's no joins. There's no such thing as a join. Does that make sense? I mean, most of the time, the pain is going to be typing. I'm going to show you a couple of quickie queries, and then I'm going to let you guys work on these. And then we'll look at them, and we'll try to get them. If you get them in today, I'll try to look at them tomorrow. And then I can go over and maybe I can pre-spot some of the typos. I don't promise to catch them all. And when we do data, and I'm going to show you the other way to enter data too, but first I'm going to do DB collections, and I'm going to do find, and let's say we wanted to find where the reviewer name was Norman Bates. So I would do, let's see if I got this right, reviewer. So reviewer name colon, I may get an error here. It's been a while since I did this. And we'll do no, I didn't find it. Do I have, so there's reviewer name. Oh, I did collections find. So I have a thing called collections now. There, see, it found it. And again, if I wanted to do, I'm going to push this up and I'm going to do dot pretty. And it would give me the review that was done by Norman Bates. So if you have objects inside of objects, you can search for them by just doing a dot. So inside of here, we could do a similar kind of thing if I wanted to do db.reviews .find, and I wanted to do the product, let's say the iPad. The other one was the Mac Pro. So product, and I will do dot product name. How did I spell it? Yeah, I just actually I was more concerned with how did I capitalize it. And that should, yeah, it did. And again, if I wanted it pretty, pretty is a lot more readable. But. So you can do searches, and there's all sorts of aggregate functions, like you can total the price, you could do different things. If you're searching for something with a price, notice like in the mini, I had all these different prices, right? Actually, I didn't. I did in product here. So let's do. I'm going to do DB product, and I called that one products, right? Find And I'm going to do product price. What was in the array? I just need to go up and see what I had in there. Could go to my thing. So I have 699, 899. So let's just say 699. And I'll do pretty. I didn't get it. So did I call it product price or did I just call it price? Way up here. I just called it price. And there it found it. The point I was trying to show is even if it's in an array, you can just pick a value and it'll search the arrays for you. You don't have to loop through the array to find the value. You just list a value that's in the array and it'll, if it's there, it'll match it and pull it out. Yeah.
So you inserted a collection in a collection to get the,
So I have three different collections, right? So I have, let's see if I can do, I'm going to do db.collections.show. Oh, I know why. db.show. So I got product reviews collection show. Is that what I wrote? I might need to go to the help. Show should bring me my collections.
for me, it works when you do db.get collections.
Yeah, that's actually.
With a capital C.
You're right. And a parentheses.
Yes.
S and then. What did I do?
There's no S at the end of collection.
Okay. You just did get collection?
Oh, sorry, my bad. db.get collection names.
Oh. That's fine. It's been a while since I did. So collection names with a capital N. They are products and reviews. That's so I didn't do the reviewer, I guess.
How do they join together?
They're not.
Did they find and
So if you wanted to find, so you say you looked under products, and so I'm going to just do db.products.find. And so I've only entered one product here, and that's so it's an ID of 1. So if I wanted to find it in reviews, db.reviews.find, and I could do something like product ID 1. That's because I put the product ID in there, but there's no exact relation. Oops, I didn't do it. Did I do? I just did. That's products. Product ID. Might need quotes. I don't know that that's the problem. Ooh, let's go down again. That should work. I'm not sure why that's not working. still not finding it. That's weird. It would work if I did iPad mini. DB reviews find. Oh, you know why it's not working? It needs to be product ID one. It needs to be, it's in a sub object, right?
In object, in that collection, product ID.
So product ID is part of the product object.
Product ID is part of the product collection.
It's part of the product collection. It's also, I repeated that information right here, right? This is in the reviews. So there's a sub object in here called product. And you could, as I said, one of the strategies you could have is you could just forget the product collection if you want and just have a sub object in this. But it's not uncommon in these to have both the product collection and the sub object. And you may repeat all of the information for product or only part of it, you know. Yeah.
What would be the reason to write like
Did you copy?
Yeah, they worked before, and I added some of the comments where they were missing.
And then you recopied and, well, let me look real quick. I'll show you one other thing and I'm gonna give you some time to work on this. Not that they want work to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were both inside the.
This is just our yeah. So you guys will.
You're either
Well,
more
obviously.
likely
Yeah, no, I don't need it. You should. Yeah, it's a cute.
No, before you write that,
What you got there?
we need to
This is for you.
preview products and see.
Didn't think that it didn't do it.
Oh, I'm trying to do it.
Well, you don't have to. I just showed you how you can do it when you build it. So then you can do it again. So, you have to have a
Just show it.
This is gonna be, this is page, this is second page.
And it makes sense.
Yeah.
I can't look.
If you got turn on items, on the assignments, and then go to that, you'll still get 94%.
Yeah.
Do we have a comment on this one? Yes, majority of all, the last one.
Plus, I don't know if she played it differently since technically.
So do,
I guess I could ask, but I'm just gonna probably. Well, just a good idea. I don't know. I'll see. I'm not gonna bank on it. I'll see what I get. Are you enrolled for next?
Yeah.
Just gonna let it taste in the head.
Yeah.
You can finish early.
Finish in summer. Yeah,
What's the original dress plan? I don't know if it was gonna record or anything. I was also.
was also math. And then one of the courses, you take, requires the JavaScript class to test it on like the curriculum plan. So that was, so I had to go back and find somewhere to put stuff that class.
Are you gonna work or you just gonna say? That's. Am I?
Yeah, which one?
And that's in class plus, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I was taking the 5 credit hours per week very literally when I first was, but obviously.
If you wanted to like make it a 40-hour work week, that's insane.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on how to do this. Like for me, like, I never like this probably part of it.
Yeah. Thanks for just,
Yeah, no, it's, we're having a, no, there's no. Yeah, round trip, not.
So you just fly from here all the way
Round trip.
Do you know if you're
is
gonna keep
flying
going or
there.
not?
It's not stop.
You're doing like 36 hours.
I don't know. Just gonna look at work.
We're not going to.
I'll probably keep like studying programming. I kind of enjoy it.
I think it's LGA. I don't like. Oh, Newark.
I depends on what I do.
Yeah, like from.
I had a friend that I think she did. She did like she was in she did a master's competition.
But yeah,
I
no,
think she
we.
works at that side. So I don't know like how much. I'm kind of curious as to like how much programming we do.
The UW has like a lot of certs. I think they have 25.
We have a master's in computational thing
They
too.
did 7
I'm just,
a.m.
I wonder like if it's more learning or it's more programming. I feel like the more programming, the better your job.
You could probably look at like down the spot.
It's been a lot. I'm not happy with that right now.
Yeah.
well, this is just fine. I mean, this is just show and tell. What we're gonna do is once we get the, this sort of designed for the show tracker, then we'll do some entry. Give me just a sec. I just wanted to show you the other thing you can do. Again, I'm not super fond of Compass, but Compass does give you another way to enter this. So notice product collection is there now. Well, that's products. Did I just do, I did the new, what did I call my new one? Product reviews. Is it going to be there? I don't see product review being there, the one I just made. Why is it taking so long to connect? So there's product reviews. Once I connect this, and you can see that there's, you know, products and reviews. And if I click on reviews, there's 2 reviews. When it does product object there, you can look and it shows, you know, you can expand them and it shows the content there. Entering this is a little bit weird. So you can do insert document, and it gives it an ID, kind of like this. So let's do it into reviews. I think this is review. I want to move this. All right. So we want the review title, no spaces. And what are we going to review? Microsoft Surface. And then you would do a comma. Actually, does it allow you to do a comma? So I just need to, string is fine. I want to add another field. No, because I think that'll insert it right as is. Oh, it's a plus over here. Add field. And it's a bit of a pain. Like, so we've got the title, we got the review date. I'm going to date. I can change it over here to date time. So I'm just going to do date. What errors? I wasn't trying to insert, I just wanted to enter a date. 2018. What is today, the 26th? So actually it's a month. 11/26. All right, and then I can do a plus, and I can do like, and I find this, I actually find it a lot easier just to do it in the command line. I'm going to make this like a, you can do like a integer, I think. And I'll just do a 4. And then I will do a plus. And then if I wanted to do it in like a product, if I do, instead of, if I come down here, God, I hate this. Come on. I just want to scroll down. I can do an object. All right, and in the object, I would give it a name. Well, actually, so I do object and I would do product. Did I do it over here? Let's do that lowercase. And then I could do product name. And I could do Microsoft Surface. And then I can do a plus. And I could do product price. Actually, it's just price, I think, generally. It has product price, though, in here. So I guess let's do product price. They're about $1,200-1,500 too, aren't they? They're expensive. 14. And I will do this as a decimal. And etc. I don't know. Can I do, let's see, if I do an escape, we'll go back out. I want to go out another field. I want to come back out. So I guess if I do this, and I go down to object. Yeah, but I don't want an object inside of this object.
How do you get back out of there?
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably from before the,
That might be. That actually. So let's do an escape here if it'll allow me. Whoa! It's all gone.
Oh, no. Are you serious?
I think so. I think it's gone. It's so much easier to do with the command line, I think. But if you really hate the command line, you can fight with this if you want. I think you're right, though. I would have had to gone up and add probably collapse the object and then go up and do it. So I think there's only, this is what we did last. These are product reviews. I also did the one we did with last time with the products collection. Test. So I guess the gist of this is just try to come up with like a notepad of it, and I will take a look at them. And then the goal of the notepad, what you're trying to come up with, to go back to the assignment, is basically there's no entity diagram. I just want you to think of what the JSON would look like, and let's look again at the basic database idea. So if we come down here, the show tracker, you basically want something that will track all the shows in town, the artists, right, that are at the different shows. And you want, fans should be able to register, and they could have like an array or a list of the artists that they want to be notified about. So just think about what kinds of things that you would want in this. So you want a database, you're going to track venues, right? Where are all these shows happening? And then who are the artists at the shows? You would want things, like the date and times for the different shows. You would want, who's the registered, who's the user, and then the fans can say, I want to see so-and-so. Anytime so-and-so is playing, let me know, that kind of thing. So just give it a shot. I took up most of your time today. So let's see, if you don't get it done in the next half hour, which I doubt, I'll certainly give you time on Wednesday to do this too. We have, what, 2 weeks left? Yeah, so we'll finish. We have time. So hopefully I didn't confuse you too much there. Now, as I said, you can master the command line fairly well. It's just that the typing is a pain. Commas, spaces, little things can cause you problems. Again, I would suggest Notepad as the way to do this. And for the first assignment, just turn in a Notepad document. And then we'll add 2 or 3. So if you make a couple of different collections, we'll add 2 or 3 to 4 records in each one. And then we'll do some queries. I'll teach you a little bit about querying. Yeah. All right, so
Query, like the final version.
right, so maybe just if you have your whatever your model is for the BRD. Right, so if you just load your model, so like file up a model. And Python file.
Yeah.
Just a screenshot or something.
I'll probably
Would work for that. Okay.
I can't remember the last one.
Is it, you haven't turned them in,
Well,
or
it's just-
they?
you can do it wherever.
Because I could be behind them, because you haven't. Now the create database.
Oh, yeah.
Go back to first window there. Local host. Right there, that window right there. For the create database, because it shows that the database has been created.
But you just say you.
So you're fine. I probably would have given those to you anyway, because I would look and see if you did the later one, so. Yeah,
I have a question.
sure,
I was writing this, for the venue,
right,
so I made it like venue here and then it's venue description, right?
right.
And then so should this, and then I realized all of this is a show.
So you could create a show on Facebook if you want.
Yeah. Does that do better?
It might be, maybe make it like a new package. When you put in a search, you can search for show object.
Okay, and then I don't know, you said that the part where it's, how do they, take the artist?
So one of the things you could do is really, there's no way to do like a join. I just have a plan.
Yeah, okay.
And they can have an array of artists. If they want. Right, so if you have an artist, like when you do, so you have like Ice Cube there.
Yeah.
So you could have a fan who gives you their name and their email, and then their list of artists that they want to follow. I wouldn't put it there necessarily. I think I would have like a separate collection for that.
Okay.
That one I think has. And then they would have a list of artists. Yeah.
So it would be like a completely its own.
Collection. Again, you can rethink it. You might have a better idea.
I'm not even sure how to start this too.
Okay, that's fine. Kind of
Go off of your model here.
Yeah. So you might do, so think about what it is that you're going to do. Like, you're gonna need to know the venue. So there's a couple of different strategies. One is you could have a collection of specific titles, or you could do like she's doing the next one. So you just repeat the venue. In my case, they are. You could have like, this is one author in that collection. So you can have, if you were doing this, you can have this and then each one has to be a different product. So now we would have similar people. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I see the
So you could, as I said, you could just stick with this.
That's
Well, yeah, so you could do a venue, so I think,
Like, I guess we do remember, like, keep track.
Oh, I'm just- I would-
So we should have the thing, all the time.
And you could do that, that's actually. how I did it. Is that a listed venue, that kind of have a venue in it.
Oh,
You
yeah.
could also
But that- that'd
do,
be the other night.
for each venue, you can list all the shows that are going to be at that venue.
I'm not gonna get that. Yeah.
Kind of like, she has a venue, and like she has a show. You could even have,
Yeah.
like, if the road shows multiple shows. Some places so
I guess I don't even know, so like, I didn't see where.
You can do, so you don't even have to look at IPs. I would do like. Here, hold on.
Yeah, I
Your
think
place
we-
will start.
I don't even know how to start. This is actually my example too.
No.
Here's your.
Oh, right. Are you,
Well, I'm trying to relate it to this. So it could be like, show reviews.
Oh.
I will show you what I did. But I'm not at all sure.
Oh, no, I didn't get
So here's the show tracker.
Yeah.
So I did a collection of venues and I did a collection of shows.
It's taken me a while.
And you could kind of follow that, but I think I was thinking way more relational basis initially. Because I separated them. But this might be a start. It's not formatted.
My floor plan.
But like I have for the jazz, I have jazz.
Oh.
No, but that's me.
And then I have people with bands and they have a little square brackets that they have to list of people. Then I have the shows, which I said that they're named, right, but it doesn't have.
You name the things here.
Right, it would match. But the, I did the ideas. But again, I'm kind of thinking, yeah, I'm just like a relational basis, since you're just spending
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
So I think that, so there's room for rethinking, thinking it more of a string of
That's what I'm talking
But
about.
that might give you a start. And if you just did that, I would put Yeah, and it is wide open, and I'm not sure. As I said, I've spent years with relational databases. I thought I think that I was overthinking it just a little bit. A lot like a relational. It would work, this works. But there might be one. I just want to, we don't have to put it. We will look at it and we'll look at it. And look. Yeah. So it's basically, that's what you want to do, create a, no single database to track shows. Yeah, just do what you think would. And it doesn't have to be perfectly set. We'll work on that. I'll be right back. Yeah.
the same thing as up top. Yeah, no, it's copy up.
So you would have to do like
Or maybe.
Yeah, that's what we like, transferable, so we give you, more information. Because it's gonna be computer science.
Yeah, you need so this is where back there.
Oh, so.
Yeah.
Not yet.
So. The one which we got. But we can be like.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do. This is like a year.
Doesn't look like it is.
Like now, now, this are. Some of them here, I have only two. After that, these are like 2 years. One city, so we were. That's how it's. Okay.
That's fine, because I'm only looking.
I think we'll review like the one, but all the.
For the database, but right now we're just saying, what would they?
So this could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what I
Or just turn
submitted.
Monday.
Oh, yeah.
This is what I submitted. I have like three.
I will take a look, and now I didn't get a look at
They use like.
2 days.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Let me look at the.
Yeah, I just worked for the.
The same schedule of this. Let's see.
Oh, this last.
Yeah.
I can, no. Yeah.
Now,
This is the last. My secret. Is it how was when what's that? Is the same next?
What was that?
Oh, no, that's exactly the same.
How do you put it in the sentences and all?
When this was in part.
Yeah, repetition and started come through do by yourself small.
I'll post what I did.
Small programming. You know, like, close the first thing, you know, you don't watch anything or I want to understand this one. And then really by yourself. If you didn't require it, you know, for them to do that. You can look to it, you can do it for you. I won't do it. There is really good stuff you can. Also, in computer, Google. For
Yeah, no, for
I just wrote it on the device for you. So just a couple different options.
Yeah, this is a,
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's plus one.
You know what is even better than Notepad for this, but we don't have it on here as brackets.